to the Vinted Entertainment Podcast. You're here with Link and Jester, here for another Terminator weekend.
Yeah, it is. T3.
And also potentially Salvation. We'll see how much time we have on our hands. We both got a lot to say about T3, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, yes, good and bad. More bad than good, I think.
Definitely. And we're pouring sweat up here in this room.
Yeah, no, the aircon's broken. So if you're hearing a bit of panting, a little bit of laboured breathing, it's okay. We're with you the whole way to go through this painful experience known as Terminator.
Yes. We're suffering to give you the Terminator 3 views that you're dying for.
Indeed.
Yes. So, this movie came out in 2003, correct?
Yeah, that's right, 2003.
Now, we saw this during high school. You drove us there, I remember, to Fox Studios in Sydney, which is now, is that called the Moore Park Entertainment District or something now?
It's the Moore Park Entertainment Centre, but now
close.
It's also Disney Studios now.
Right.
So they still do film at the studios there, but mainly it's Disney now, because as you know, Disney bought out 20th Century Fox a few years ago. So now it's Disney Studios.
Yeah.
But back then it was the Fox Studios, the place where they filmed sequences for Star Wars, Episode 1 or 2 and 3, The Matrix.
Yep.
And a few other cracker movies. I know they did a bit of The Great Gatsby there as well too.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I remember watching that in high school. Super pumped for it too.
Yeah.
It was coming out.
Yeah. And I was surprised that there was guys who went with us that night who the following Monday or something, or following week. So I think we saw it did we see it on a Friday? Or we saw it it would have come out on a Thursday, so we would have went to school the next day.
It was Friday. It was definitely.
It was a Friday.
It was Friday.
So, and they were like, "Oh man, love that movie. That beats Terminator 1 and 2." And I'm like, "You guys are on crack, man. Like, are you kidding?" It's like they're like, "Nah, man, just stop being like so upset about it." And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, I just wasted hours of my life, and the anticipation, the build up, plus the." I don't know, $30 for the ticket or whatever it was like on premiere night or whatever it was. It was more expensive, I think.
Yeah, I think back then too with us, we loved movies, but we weren't knee deep into things like how the movies were made, the production, all that sort of stuff. But I remember coming out of that film just utterly disappointed.
Yeah.
Anticlimactic.
Yeah.
You're expecting T2. It obviously wasn't like that. Had a lot of things that were, I know, retrospectively changed.
Yeah.
From T1 and T2. I think I was more just pumped, especially as a late teenager, to see Arnold back in the movie in that role.
Yeah.
Even that was a little bit disappointing then. And after watching it recently for this review, more disappointing now.
Well, this is only the second time I've seen it. I've never seen it since 2003. So this was literally, I put a ban on this movie. This movie did not exist in my life at all. But I watched 1 and 2 and even Salvation, second, third, etc. however many times. Mainly 1 and 2 multiple times. Salvation a little bit. But this one I had not watched ever again until this review. So, yeah, it was like watching it almost like I'd forgotten the movie. You know what I mean? And I had to put myself back through it again, which was incredibly annoying. But the other aspect is as well is that this was part of the, I don't know what you call it, like the Schwarzenegger post-Eraser drop, like End of Days, Collateral Damage. We've got to review Collateral Damage. Just got that line in my head. I'll show you Collateral Damage.
Baseball bat.
Yeah. But this was during that run where it was pre-Governator, but post-good movies.
Yeah, no, they started doing the downfall. I always had a guilty pleasure for End of Days personally, but I was always like that end of world, satanic stuff.
Yeah, but I don't like the whole. We can review that too. I mean, I think any Schwarzenegger movie deserves a place on this show.
I found in those movies, right, those post-Eraser, pre-Governator films where Arnold started them, but in the world according to me, he wasn't the star act in those films.
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, End of Days, Gabriel
Byrne.
He owned that movie. And then Collateral Damage, and I can't remember his name for the life of me. He was the Kiwi actor who
the guy from he was in
Speed 2.
And he was also in Once Were Warriors. I can't believe I forgot. He was like Uncle Bully or something, wasn't he? That guy.
Yes. Yeah. So he was almost like the star act. Even John Leguizamo, who had a small cameo in that, Elias Cortez, i.e. Casey Jones from OG Ninja Turtles.
That's right. He was the FBI agent or something.
They stole the movie, and Arnold was just there because it was Arnold, but they weren't overall really good films.
Yeah.
And then to top it with this, no.
Yeah, and I don't like how the T-800 is portrayed in this movie. It's almost like me and you said it back. I remember in 2003, where you said, I think a few days after we'd watched it and you processed it, you were like, and this movie just took the piss out of him. Like, and we both agreed that in T2, the funny moments come from John Connor trying to teach the Terminator how to be more human, whereas in this movie, it's more about they're almost making fun of the Terminator. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And even with this, like with this particular film, and like we'll go into the bit of the production, the pre-production stuff, because there's quite a bit of history there. When I was actually looking into it, there was a lot of changes regarding this film, and it seems like they're trying to flog a dead horse with this one. All right, we're on. Sorry, a little bit of technical difficulties there. So where if you hear a little bit intermittent cut, that's cool. Bear with us. Again, it's our third show. We're still getting our hands around how this whole thing works with this software and hardware. But back to saying they're flogging a dead horse with this film. The pre-production with this was absolutely wild. So the idea with this film was actually that when James Cameron and Will Wisher had written T2, it was supposed to be the end. There was a resolution.
Should have been the end.
Yes, hence why even with both endings, that deleted scene ending with Sarah Connor, old Sarah Connor at the park,
Yeah.
But then the actual original ending was just on the road.
Yeah, the highway.
The highway. That was still a resolute and a final end. The circle's closed. But what happened was that fast forward a few years, and they had the Terminator 3D Battle Across Time experience.
Yes.
Right, which James Cameron wrote and directed and brought all the key players back.
Yeah.
You had Arnold, you had Eddie Furlong, you had Robert Patrick, all reprised their roles, and it was all set in a future war. How they go into the future, or Arnold and John Connor go into the future, and then end up battling this. I think it was like a T-1000. It was like a big gigantic spider, like a mimetic polyalloy spider.
And this was a ride, wasn't it?
It was a ride, yes, but it was filmed, with actors, and like I think it's very similar to like how you have 4D rides, like that sort of thing. But anyways, while he was really completed that, I think he was initially not interested, but then became interested into wanting to write a third film.
Yeah.
But the concept would have been primarily done in the future.
Like Salvation, like what we wanted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that story in the modern day, in the 80s and 90s, that is finished. But you could still elaborate so much more of the story in the future. So the idea for that was, there was also rights issues. So Coralco Pictures, which was the independent production company of T2, they went bust. And so a lot of the rights were getting sold off at auctions. So the idea was that 20th Century Fox were looking at buying the rights to all of Coralco's assets. So including those, also like Universal Soldier, that was another Coralco one, Rambo, all that jazz. But then what happened was that James Cameron was working on Titanic.
Yeah.
Right. So the original idea was that 20th Century Fox were looking to acquire all of Coralco's rights and also the Terminator rights, with the idea that James Cameron's like, I'll write and produce, but I don't want to direct. I'll leave that up to 20th Century Fox to deal with. Yeah. So the idea was that was going to be a thing. There was biddings happening at the auction. I think the idea was that they were going to put around $8 million to buy the rights, but then Studio Canal ended up offering a little bit more, so like either $8.5 million or $9 million. And during this time, though, this is when the post-production was happening on Titanic. Yeah. Right? And which was also produced by Fox. And James Cameron had a really bad time. Had a bit of, I guess, studio interference and all that sort of jazz in the post-production thing. So he's like, you know what, stuff this. I'm over 20th Century Fox. So then what happened was that they acquired the rights, all rights bar the Terminator IP. And then what happened was that Coralco, Mario Castor and Andrew Vanja, the two main guys of Coralco, they had started their own company called C2 Pictures. or they were in the process of starting this company called C2 Pictures. And because they had a good relationship with James Cameron showing them a viewing of the Titanic. And what happened from there was that little did James Cameron know was that they were actually behind the scenes going to what is it, like the something equivalent to like the bankruptcy board and all that sort of stuff overseas, where they were actually making a deal behind James Cameron's back without telling him to buy the Terminator rights under their new company called C2 Pictures, which is the company that produced this.
So they met him and they already had this in the works.
Yeah, they never mentioned it to James Cameron, which, they didn't have to, but, the idea is that they had a working relationship in the past. Yeah. I think there was a time where, after the Fox thing fell through, that Arnold was speaking to James Cameron about going, hey, how about we buy it ourselves? And James Cameron didn't want to do it. He was like, no, it's too much. So then what happened was that then Mario Caso and Andrew Vanja ended up buying the rights to the Terminator with C2 Pictures. James Cameron found out about it and was pretty pissed. The idea about securing the Terminator rights or the rights to start up their new company C2 was that Terminator 3 was going to be their premiere film to launch the company. So, how
did that work for them?
Oh, well, yeah, then product right here, mate. Shit. But so the idea was that they were going to do Terminator 3 and 4 back to back. That was supposed to be a two-picture.
All the same actors, or anyone who survived 3 basically was going to be in 4.
Well, Arnold initially didn't want to do it.
What, 3 and 4?
Oh, no, all 3. Like, it to be the Terminator in because James Cameron wasn't doing it. Yeah. So the idea was that he felt like it was like a betrayal to James Cameron, which if I worked with the man as an actor, I had the sense of loyalty. You build a product together, you build an IP together. The Terminator character is his more than anyone's, as much as the story is James Cameron's.
Yeah.
So, James Cameron didn't want to be involved unless he wrote the story.
Yep.
Right? And then he gave Arnold his blessing saying, yeah, do it and just take as much money as you can. So I think Arnold got paid a whopping, it was either $18 to $20 million for that film.
Yeah. So when I say that that they took the piss out of the T-800 in this, was that Cameron's writing or was that done like?
No, done separately. So you have to remember though, in this movie, they're not a T-800; it's a T-850.
Oh, whatever it is.
No, because there's a subtle difference with this, which makes sense throughout the movie, which is stupid. But yes, no, the writing was all done independently. They got what's his name? They got Ted Sarafian. Ted Sarafian to write the initial script. And the initial script was actually that John Connor was working for
So that was based on Cameron's initial sort of...
No, Cameron never actually had an initial treatment. No, nothing was ever actually made up. It was just more that from that Terminator 2 3D Across Time.
Oh, right.
That he was like, oh, you know what? I want to start writing maybe a treatment, but I don't think he ever actually wrote one.
Right, okay, so I thought you said that he had done it and...
No, he was thinking about wanting to go back to the franchise after doing that, and really being focused on the future war stuff, not going back in time.
So he had no actual...
No involvement.
Okay, sorry. Just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, but the original idea, the original script was, John Connor was in charge of an IT company, Datadot or something like that, and the idea for him was that he was keeping eyes on Cyberdyne from not launching Skynet and hacking into Cyberdyne, and Sarah Connor was still living with down in Mexico with the cartels, or Enrique, and all those guys down south trying to prepare for the war, while John Connor's trying to stop the war from his company trying to hack into Cyberdyne and not let them launch Skynet, and all the while they send back a female Terminator back, right? Which wasn't the TX, it was called the TG1,
right?
Which was supposed to be a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
But it could also, in like T2, where Arnold explains about to John Connor about the T-1000. Why doesn't it become a bomb to get me?
It's chemical moving parts.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way. They can make knives,
stabbing weapons. Yeah.
This one could actually make anything, which is total nonsense. Like it could turn in chemical restructuring, whatever it is. It's supposed to be a full-blown shapeshifter into anything as a Terminator. Which and so that was the original treatment. Then obviously a Terminator gets sent back to protect John again. Pretty much rinse and repeat. And then that got obviously they hadn't had a director at the time, so they were looking at directors. Some of the key directors they were looking at was Ridley Scott.
Oh, right.
He was like number one, he actually got offered the gig and then turned it down because he said he didn't want to be a part of a franchise. He sort of compared it to like a James Bond franchise, something that's already established. I don't want to be involved in that.
Right.
You know,
unless he establishes it.
Well, I guess so. I don't know. Yeah, like look, let's see how well that done for him. Check out Alien Covenant and Prometheus. Reviews coming your way soon. That's going to be another rough ride. Prometheus not so bad. I got a soft spot for that, but
Yeah,
Covenant,
I watched Prometheus the other day actually. My wife and I put it on, and yeah, it wasn't too bad. But this is getting off track from Terminator. But yeah, I don't like how it didn't close out anything. Didn't give the answers you wanted.
Yeah, no, it didn't. It didn't.
Yeah.
Just ask more questions than what it did. Like this movie, like T3, answers more questions than anything else.
Yeah.
But then they also had John McTiernan, i.e. Predator, Die Hard.
Yeah.
You know, he turned it down. Even Roland Emmerich, which would make sense considering that Emmerich, you know, he directed Universal Soldier, made by Carolco.
Yeah. Another great movie.
Another fantastic film. Cheesy but fantastic. But so there was a whole bunch of directors, but then in the end they settled with Jonathan Mostow. And he got like Arnold's blessing with that too. I think Arnold had in his clause. Mind you, like I said, he took, I think it was like 18 or $20 million. Plus he got 20% of the profit share.
Oh, wow.
So he milked the crap out of this film.
Yeah.
Milked the crap. But he also had final decision on choice of director as well too. So they got Jonathan Mostow involved, and they brought in John Brancato and Michael Ferris to do extensive rewrites on the original script. So changing the TG1 or TG01 to the TX.
Right.
John Connor not working for being off the grid, which we'll go through when we go through the synopsis of the film. And then they also experimented with radically changing the design of the machines. So like the hunter killers or the aerials and all that sort of stuff. When we see them in the movie, they look a lot more advanced. Even in the scenes in the film where it's in the modern day, when the film takes place, and they already got these really slicked, designed aerials and stuff. So a lot of the writers did stuff like that. And then and the salary was $30 million actually. There you go, with a budget of the film of $187 million.
Yeah, wow.
And then all of a sudden, this movie was designed, written, produced, made. It did turn over quite a good amount in the box office, though. It turned over around $480 million in the box office.
Yeah.
Mind you, 20% of that goes to Arnold, not to mention his $30 million salary. So, quite a lot of stuff. But also with the production too, it does bring back Stan Winston and Industrial Light and Magic are coming back into it. This film, though, maybe it's the era of the time in the early 2000s. There are some good mechanical effects in this film, but a lot of it's CGI as well. It just looks, it looks dated for the time when it comes to CGI, especially when we go into Salvation, where we notice that a lot of Salvation's effects by the same mob are actual practical effects.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much the production of T3. And so, as we go through the film, it starts off really bland, very different. It's very depressing, very bleak.
But it also starts with he doesn't believe in the no fate but what we make anymore. And I'm like, well, that just destroys the law from the first two films, that it's all about, we make our own fate. So it's almost like they've gone back on a foundational premise.
Yeah, they just decided to flush it down the toilet and come up with their own thing.
Yeah.
Even with the start of the film, though, because I think the idea, though, never really sort of tells you. You sort of have to, when you watch the film, especially the opening scene, John Connor's, black screen, the background, John Connor's talking, sounds like he's stoned off Prozac or bloody Xanax or something like that. Really,
he does pop pills in this.
Yeah, and he drinks. Yeah. So apparently he's supposed to be suicidal because he's lost his purpose. So so John Connor's living off the grid.
Yeah. You see him working as a labourer, which is probably cash in hand. Like he probably doesn't do anything with credit cards or anything like that.
No mobiles, no nothing, just purely off the grid.
Yeah, no Nokia 6110 from back in the day. Oh, this is just post the 6110 era, isn't it?
This is more like the 8210.
Yeah.
It's more,
I don't remember.
Your thumbs could barely push a single button. Yeah.
I don't remember the numbers or the model numbers or whatever.
Yeah, no, 8210 was small. That's when phones went from large to small.
Yeah.
And then pre-smartphone, and then they started going from small back to being really large, and large was cool.
Yeah.
But this time small was cool. So they follow John Connor, and he's depressed. He's lost purpose. I don't mind this, because in reality, what would happen? Imagine that you were told you're grown up as a kid to say that you are the general that will lead the resistance to, it's a shit life because you're going to be fighting the machines, but you are the savior.
Yeah.
To only find that you've stopped it, or at the time you thought he stopped it, and what do you do for the rest of your life?
Exactly.
you know. And
What's
so
the plan? You had the plan, and now you got no plan.
there's no plan. So he's still off the grid because he still has nightmares and dreams and all this sort of jazz. Especially when and then sort of kicks to him having a dream of I do like this transition. He's sitting on the on the bridge having having a beer.
Having a light brew.
A light brew, probably full strength. I'd be having full strength.
Yeah, yeah. If I was him, I would be.
Yeah, 100%.
Just save the universe.
Well, this is years later, mate. I'd be wishing the universe would turn to shit so I have some purpose in my life, but that's just me.
Yeah. Well, either way, you can have a brew.
Yeah, you can have a brew. Always have a brew.
Yeah.
Brew's beer, by the way, not so much coffee.
Yeah.
Beer. So yeah, he throws the bottle into the bottom of the canal.
Yeah.
And that's when you see the bottle sit there, then you see the skull.
Yes.
Transition.
I do like that too. That's probably the best part of this movie.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it is. That's
our favorite part. Yeah.
Although that being said, I did genuinely dislike I didn't like the future war because you do see a scene of the future war with John Connor and the scars on the side of his face similar to how Michael Edwards, the actor who played it in T2 at the start, but it's missing that James Cameron flair. You got the CGI Terminators, and again it looks dated for the time, storming with their plasma rifle throughout the range. No Uzi 9mm, but close enough. And they're storming the mountain, and then all of a sudden you see John Connor standing on top of on top of the American flag in the background, waving his pistol or waving his rifle. Going, yeah, we've done it, we've won. But again, you look at it, it's very brown, very bleak. It's not. It hasn't got those nice blues, and even they even got a shot of the aerial as well, which again looks so much more modernized. Compared to how it was in the first two films. And this is where I get a little bit how you're going, right? Because in this movie, I know you're just making the film for the time, right? So this was made in the late 90s, early 2000s, right?
Yep.
But I don't know why they couldn't stick to the original formula from T1 and 2 when it came to like what the future world looked like, all the kits, all the assets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you think about it, the future war as it was in part 1 and part 2, all the models look the same.
Yeah.
Right? In the end, if you send a T-800, Skynet sends a T-800 back to kill Sarah Connor, and then sends another Terminator T-1000 to kill John Connor, and they reprogram a T-800 to protect John Connor, so T1 and T2, how the flying hell does that change the design of what things would look like in the future?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like that's the thing that sort of gets me a little bit going, oh come on man, like just keep it the same. You can keep it the same.
Yeah.
Make sure you got the same special effects guys, or majority of them, that actually worked on the first two films.
Yeah.
Keep the flavor alive. It reminds me of like Star Trek, when they did the 2009 remake. Which I didn't mind that one. The sequels after that were trash, in my opinion. But again, there was that whole contractual thing where I think when Bad Robot acquired it, they had to change up to 25%, or they had to change at least 25% of the current design, costumes, effects, ships. That's where they look different. So they can actually make more money for that.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this is
like from merchandise or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's the same for this film. But then, you see the future war thing lasts a few, 20, 30 seconds. Then it goes into like rolling credits, credits in the background whilst, it's going through LA, and then we start seeing the TX rock up. Or the time displacement bubble.
This might be a good time to pause on the synopsis quickly and just talk about the TX. Did you like the design of this, where it's the endoskeleton? In the first couple of reviews we did, I did too. We kept saying exoskeleton. It is an endoskeleton. So apologies for that in our first couple of reviews.
Yeah.
For Terminator 1 and 2, but no, correct endoskeleton. We're making the correction here. So it's the endoskeleton with the liquid metal polymagnetic blah blah blah. Yeah, that over the top. But then she also has like a blaster in her arm. Her arm can transform into like a plasma gun.
Yeah, it's a different weapons. Yes.
And then she has a finger thing that can hack stuff, which is almost like Robocop's data spike thing, isn't it, sort of thing. I mean, I didn't like this. I'm like, when I watched it in 03, I was like, so they took Terminator 1, Terminator 2, the two antagonists, and just mixed them together and gave it a plasma rifle on its arm, basically.
Yeah.
But I don't know, when I rewatched it the other day for this review, I was like, if you're going to upgrade, at least I suppose she has a built-in weapon and a and maybe some hacking devices. I don't exactly hate it.
They started with that. Yeah.
I don't exactly hate it, but I'm just like, once again, why? Like, why does this movie even exist? You know, like, yeah.
Well, but even too, though, right? Like, and again, this is all like time paradox stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's why I said that thing before about why they have to change the design of things.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about production and stuff. I'm talking about like just in the film lore, in the
Yeah.
universe, right? So I doubt that because Cyberdyne got blown up in number 2 and probably had a setback, that they would have more modernized, upgraded, Skynet's got upgraded assets in the future. If anything, they should have more of a downgrade, maybe because things maybe gotten delayed or what have you.
Yeah.
But same as like the TX. The one thing that the TX I didn't like was that the T1000 was an advanced prototype.
Yeah.
Right? The T800s, they were the driving force, and the 600 with rubber skin, they
Yeah.
were the main Terminators of the time in the future. And then you had the T1000, which was an experiment, a prototype.
Yeah.
Then you had this TX.
Yeah.
So if all this is happening in the future war, because when I go back to Cole Reese in part 1, when he's speaking to Dr. Silverman before he has that great monologue, he's like, "You just don't get it, do you?"
Yeah.
He's explaining about how with the TDE, John Connor sent me the Intercept and we blew the whole place. And even in the novelization, they do blow it up in that first couple of chapters after they send back a program T800. So they blew the TDE. So that unless Skynet's got a second TDE somewhere.
Yes.
But then you've got the TX that's much, I don't know, is it more advanced to have weapons? That's a debate, but to me it's like the T1000 is the ultimate. Yeah, this has got plasma weapons, but how much further into the future, besides 2029, where the future war was happening, where they sent the Terminators back in the first place, how much more further ahead is it in the future here that they send a TX, an advanced model?
Yeah.
Like, it's not, I don't know, like, it's just a
really that. It's described as a Terminator that hunts Terminators. It's a Terminating hunting Terminator, which means that did Skynet assume that it would have to turn on its own cybernetic creations at some point based off maybe its experiences with the Arnold robot in T2, or like it thought, the humans can reprogram them, so therefore I'm going to make something to hunt down the reprogrammed ones,
Actually, that makes much more sense. Actually, now think about it, because especially if the Resistance was like capturing, factories of T800s, and then they found the Resistance was reprogramming them. See, that could have been a great film. That would have been a really great concept to have it as a third film for a future war. They've captured it. It could start off, this would be so great. This is my own headcanon going off here, but
just making this up as you go now.
Well, it could start, like the third film in the future war could have started when, have Michael Biehn as a cameo, of course, because he's the...
But as like a general or something.
No, have Cole Reese, so have the start of it when they storm the compound.
Just the agent.
And they see, and then they send, Michael Biehn back then still, you could pass. It's Michael Biehn, I love him, he's the man. But they could have started off with, with them actually capturing, like the first chapter in the book in T2, where they actually capture the TDE. They see that or even like the Terminator Resistance game, where they're capturing the time displacement equipment or the time displacement complex. They see a T800 go through, a T1000 go through, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, wait, the future hasn't changed. Why are we still here? If we sent them, so then he sends Cole Reese back, of course, reprograms a T800. So this is where it starts. The Arnold from T2, send him back, and then they're still standing there going, hey, how come, why are we still here? Why has nothing changed? We should change and not even know that it's happened, because, they've sent it back in time and they realize that they haven't changed nothing. So now they start programming that whole array of Terminators, and that's when then Skynet's still, like Skynet maybe because he got shut down apparently, he got defeated, but then there's maybe some emergency backup and a satellite or something that reactivates Skynet, and then the war continues in the future.
Yeah, that actually makes sense, an off-site or off-planet backup of Skynet in a satellite.
Well, they did that in one of the games.
Oh, did they?
No. So Terminator Dawn of Fate on Xbox, they actually, so when you finish the game, because the game ends with Cole Reese going back in time, right? Yeah. And Skynet shut down, then they have the satellite that says emergency backup starting, and there's a timer.
Right.
So the idea, like having that, and then it's like, okay, so that's when then Skynet starts developing like a TX, right? Or a Terminator to hunt Terminators, because the war's now being fought in the future with them reprogramming Terminators to infiltrate, like flipping it, from what they were originally programmed to do.
And then you have the debate between different sides of the Resistance who could say like, yeah, this is a great idea, or no, this is insane. Or if they then flip back and they're all in our bases and they murder us.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
man, like Terminator 3, like that's
Yeah.
I don't know, that's just an idea off the top of my head. But
And this Skynet let them take it so that they do that. Skynet thinks like, X amount of years in advance. Like it has that, like,
it learns it like a geometric rate or whatever
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
called. So it's
and that would lead into like almost like what Salvation was, where you had the what's his name, the Aussie dude playing the
Sam Worthington.
yeah, he thinks
Yeah.
he's a human, but he's not human. And when he goes and meets John Connor, the Skynet's looking through his eyes while he's captured.
Yeah, see, there you go. There's 3 and 4 right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there was so much there's so much opportunity, but they decided to re-rinse the formula of T2
Yes.
in this film.
That's the problem, I think, with any of the sequels, bar Salvation, is there is too much time travel, and they should have stopped the time travel at number 2. If you want to keep it going, like you said, make it all future war stuff, you know what I mean, where Skynet has a backup or something like that. That would make the most sense, where the continuity just keeps going forward rather than where we're going back, we're changing things, we're killing more people off, because part of the TX's mission in this was to kill John's lieutenants. Like she does a drive-by of some
Because
guy.
Skynet doesn't know where John Connor is because he's off the grid.
Yeah, and then she's doing like drive-bys of someone in like who's working at a Burger King or something. What I mean?
I love that scene, actually.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that.
Okay, that's our second favourite scene.
Oh, no, that's our second
So
favourite
far.
one. Whatever his name is, I know John Jackson. Yeah, me. Bang through the drive-through.
Yeah,
Order to go. Yeah, I love it. That's so good.
yeah. But then it's like, right, so now we're not only killing John, we're now targeting people in his command structure.
Well,
Like, we're taking that a little bit further.
Well, the idea was because Skynet doesn't know where John Connor is
Yeah.
because he's off the grid.
Yeah,
right? So, and this is where it sort of links to later on in the film where, the general, and we'll get to the general in a second, the one who's in charge of the AI cybernetics division of the United States Air Force. I think in the sort of the canon, I think in the future war, he was like a colonel. So he was one of John's advisors. Because it goes back to, we'll get to that later actually, because it might be a bit confusing trying to jump backwards and forwards. But
Yeah, correct.
there is a
correct.
point I've got for this, so remind me later.
Yeah, so we might crack on a bit with the synopsis.
Yeah,
Begin our smack talk. Well, I suppose we've already started that.
No, we have, yeah. No, so we're up to the part now where post flash forward with John Connor in the future war, the dream. Then he ends up riding his motorbike and crashes his bike at night, and then stumbles his way into a veterinary or into a vet hospital.
Yeah.
All the while, then this is where
Which is the place you go after a motorcycle accident.
oh, when you're off the grid for gear, yeah, 100%. And then we flash to LA, where that's where we see the arrival of the TX.
Yeah.
Now, I must admit, I do like this CGI, this graphical sequence of the TDE activating. Whereas in the past, you just saw this mad circle that sort of comes up, which is very like just void of color. It's like a dark blue black. Now they've sort of incorporated this grid-like thing with a reflective visual of a sphere.
It's sort of like a pod. It's like a transporting pod.
Yeah, and I really like the effect design on this, which looks really good. And then we got the TX that rocks up, played by Christina Logan.
Yes, who was also in I think a couple of the Blood Rain movies, which are based on a video game, vampire game.
Yeah, that's right.
I've never seen them. Don't really want to watch them. We may watch them for this channel, maybe.
Yeah.
For this podcast, potentially, maybe. Probably not.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
But this, I think she was like like 10,000 women that were auditioning for this.
right.
This was the one by, I think, China, the old WWE wrestler.
Right. I didn't know
because
that.
Arnold wanted her.
Right.
And that didn't.
Has she acted before?
No, I've done wrestling though, a bit of acting.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that.
I suppose yes. You are right. You are right.
Yeah, but then we have the TX rock up, naked in the street, but all the while you still got these rolling credits going on, which is very different to the normal Terminator introductions of the credits. And so the TX, this is funny because the TX finds his lady in a car. You don't see her kill anyone. She's just, next thing you know, she's in the car in the clothes of, wearing the clothes of the lady she's allegedly killed whilst driving her car. And I love how she gets her mobile phone, dials a number, and somehow produces the good old 80s.
Yeah. That's taking back to when I used to play like StarCraft against friends in high school, and I used to sit there and hear that,
All the time. And hold the phone line while you're doing it too. Used to piss off the parents a lot.
Yeah.
But this is where, like, she uses the internal modem to then, find out who these her targets are, which are these lieutenants. So it's not John Connor himself; it's the lieutenants that served under John Connor.
Yeah.
But then, do you remember the scene where she gets pulled up by a cop car for speeding? I never got this right. Like, I have this bad writing, but okay, you're a Terminator. You're not really on the clock, right? Like, you haven't got like a time constraint to do your task. You know what I mean? Granted, she might know there's another Terminator that's actually being deployed, but why the hell would she want to speed on the street and give attention to herself by the police? Just drive the car.
Yeah.
So then she gets pulled over by the cop, and she sees a billboard that has these girls with, I think, Victoria's Secret ad or something that shows this girl with big boobs. So she's like, okay, I'm just going to enlarge my boobs, or for the cop to rock up and say, I like your gun, and then no doubt, it just cuts scene there, which no doubt she's probably killed the policeman, maybe. But why increase the boobs?
Yeah,
She's looking bloody attractive, man. Like, if I was a cop and I pulled her over, big tits or no big tits, I'd be still going, hey, hello, okay. And she said she liked my gun, however you take that. But just very, I don't know, I just never really liked that because, why? There's no need for her to enlarge her boobs,
I think it's mainly just to show the capability of the TX, or that it's taking in information from human sources like billboards, but like you said, it's a bit silly.
I think her acting as well too with this is the TX. So unlike Robert Patrick as the T-1000, when he's alone, he's got that stone cold look there. He's interacting. He interacts, like a human, but within the remit. And she like when she puts on that human mode, the way she acts when she's dealing with humans, like especially with the cop, it's very like I don't know, very. Not convincing to me anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas Robert Patrick could pull off a thing where he speaks to John Connor's foster parents in T2.
Yeah.
He'll going to John Connor, just really like he's always like a cop. You believe he's human if you hadn't met him before. So, anyways, as we skip up, we get introduced to Claire Danes, who plays Catherine Brewster.
Yeah.
Who in the movie ends up becoming John Connor's wife in the future war.
Yeah.
And ironically enough, she is the manager of the vet hospital, which John Connor crashed his bike into and managed to stumble his way in there to get meds.
And the daughter of the colonel dude, whoever is doing the Skynet setup.
Yes, the daughter of the general, right, who's in charge of the USAF, United States Air Force, cybernetics and AI division, right?
Yeah.
Which, again, then the idea for that is with this division, it doesn't really explicitly say, but in Salvation, which is a sequel to this, it sort of does give it hints and some snapshots where the United States Air Force, this division of the Air Force, ended up acquiring all of Cyberdyne's assets right after Cyberdyne blew up. So they took over what was going to be this new AI system that was then further developed by these guys to be able to be like Skynet, pretty much.
And that is probably one of the good points in terms of the storyline, maybe, about how they then reintroduce Skynet after the Cyberdyne blowing up. Like, I feel like that's... I can go with that, you know what I mean?
And that's the thing. I think that I give the movie this, like, for the time it was made, right? We mentioned this in our last couple of episodes of the Terminator about AI and comparing it to today.
Yeah.
It would be inevitable, as what Arnold or the T-800 or T-850 in this movie would later say about Judgment Day. The military would, whether it be Skynet in this universe or there'd be another military type AI thing with the rate of technology and the way it goes.
Like Legion.
And this is where I hate Dark Fate. I'm not a fan of that film, but they could have done that instead of having, now that John Connor's off the grid, it's not Skynet, it's another AI, because in today's society, AI is on the rise. I mean, we've got AI everywhere now, short of probably running military applications.
Yep.
But they did sort of foresee this a little bit and expand a bit more on the military using it, right? So, so we get introduced into General Brewster, Kate's dad, who's in charge of that, of the cybernetics and AI division. And they're working in a military installation, and pretty much the workers, one of the civilian workers, is pretty much saying, hey, look, we've got this virus that's starting to impact other countries' defense systems. And they're like, oh shit, okay, there's this virus that's actually infiltrating firewalls and starting to break into certain networks. So this military unit actually got this program called Skynet that they're developing based on Cyberdyne's work, which they're hesitant to use to be able to kill the virus.
It's basically it'll run everything. Like
It'll take over everything,
yeah.
take over the virus.
Yeah.
So anyways, they're discussing that, and then we crack on to Arnold arriving, right? And it's classic Arnold. I've got to give Arnold credit here. He was 52, I think, when he did this.
Looks like
And
a
his-
machine.
apparently his dimensions were exactly the same as he was in T2. So
Right.
10 years later or so, he still managed to get to the same dimensions for a 51-year-old. Awesome.
Mate, if anyone could do it, he could.
Only him. Oh, him and Stallone. Stallone
Yeah,
was still, and Stallone's like almost 80 now, or close to it, and he's still
Yeah.
rocking it.
Mate, Tulsa King.
Great series.
Yeah.
So good. So Arnold rocks up in the classic fashion. I like how when Arnold, when the T850 in this model, we'll explain why it's T850 later, how he walks when he comes out through the TD, the time displacement portal, and when he stands up and walks away, it's like broken glass.
Yes.
I like that, considering that the thing formed on dirt and it was glass. So that was really cool.
Yeah, well, the heat would have, well, it's sand, isn't it? It's in the desert, so the heat would have actually made the sand, I don't know, glassify? Glassify is not a term, but
yeah, something
it is now.
Yeah, that's
It
right.
is for this show.
Yeah, and he walks off, and then this is where Arnold goes and gets the clothes, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, like so I thought it was actually.
Me and you hated this scene in 03.
I must admit, I thought it was like a gay bar, but it's not. It's actually like
It's
a country bar. No, it's a country bar. It's ladies' night.
Yeah.
It's just the stripper's a gay guy.
Yeah.
So Arnold rocks up, very similar to replicating again the scene in T2 where he's walking naked into like a country bar type thing. This time, no bikies, it's ladies' night. And this is where when I first watched the movie and then when I watched it again, I was going, okay, this is where it starts taking the piss a little bit. So in T2, you could sort of say it would probably be a bit camp, or a little bit, not camp, a little bit cheesy, if you will, when, he takes the clothes and you got bad to the bone flag, right?
Yeah.
You could say that's a bit cheesy, but if it somehow works, right? Here, it's a ladies' night in the bar, the kid doing these zoom-ins on Arnold, and he sees the stripper, right? Who's, and again, it goes back to the POV stuff, or the POV stuff. It's nowhere near the same quality, different text, because, I love POVs. Different to what it was in T2, probably production stuff, or production reasons, I don't know. But obviously he sees the stripper, who's wearing leathers, which is almost exactly the same as from T2, and finds it's a match. And, Arnold in his classic way, give me your clothes. And talk to the hand, honey, being all sass.
But she then picks up in his programming and uses later.
He grabs his hand and goes,
Oh, that's
and again, it is sort of funny, but it's also really cheesy. But I could forgive that because he's a computer, he's a robot. But then he takes the clothes, pulls out the glasses, and puts on these Elton John 1970s-esque star glasses.
They're not gargoyles.
No, they're not. They're not the gargoyles. No.
Yeah, my wife, since she listened to our Terminator 1 episode, she's been looking up gargoyles for me. Now I wear prescriptions because my sight is degrading in my age, and I'm like, I can't use them. I can't use them while I'm driving because I need prescriptions. And she was like, oh. I'm like, yeah, man, don't worry about spending the money, or you know what I mean. What did you say they were, like 600 or
yeah, 600 something bucks, Australian anyway. But if you're looking up for like the 19, some of them even more so, even up to a
She
grand.
forgot it on prescription. You know what I mean? She's like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, don't get them. I can't use them.
Unusual design.
I can't use them while driving. I can use them if we're out for a day, but mainly sunglasses I use when driving. So anyway, side note about my personal life and medical history.
Glasses. But you can wear these quality star-shaped Arnold sunglasses, though, the one he picks up from the stripper, which, again, why put that in the film? It's supposed to be a comedic moment, but it's a Terminator. It's designed to kill people and just scorch Earth, right? But
we said that, I remember we said this back in 03, where we were like, man, they were just trying to take the piss out of him in this.
Yeah, and he does it. And then, obviously he puts the glasses on, takes them off, goes in, steals a car, classic, Terminator style, and then finds a pair of, they're not gargoyles, they're like cheap service station sunnies that you can get for $20. And he puts them on and then drives off. Now, they're not gargoyles, but they are in that similar black type style frame like the TNT2. But again, just a piss take. I don't like it,
I feel like I'm going to sound, I don't know, maybe I take my movies too seriously here, but I feel like this is the era where you'd have a serious sort of film and they drop in random comedy moments. Like this is sort of where that started to ebb in. You started to get movies where they weren't action comedies, like something with what are some good action comedies, like
Beverly Hills Cop.
yeah, like that, or even what's that one with Adam Sandler and one of the Wayans brothers,
Bulletproof.
Yeah,
That's really the funny.
yeah. But like where you expect to laugh and where they were sort of seeping in comedy into you know what I mean, serious action movies. Like this comedy wouldn't have went into, say, the original Terminator. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I thought that was coming in more. It could just be in my memory, but I thought like it was coming in more in the early 2000s. That you were expected to go into a serious movie and there'd still be a few laughs. Now I understand that when you have comedy scenes in a movie, especially where there's a lot of you know, characters are under great stress. Some of their coping mechanisms might be to make a joke, or it shows bonding between characters. I get all that. But I feel like in a lot of the movies in that time, it was misplaced.
Yeah, 100%. But if we go back to James Cameron's work, like let's look at True Lies, for example.
Yeah, like that's actually a great example.
But then you put good comedy in there because it suited the time.
He was telling off the horse. Was the horse who didn't jump or something?
Yeah, or when Bill Paxton, R.I.P., you know, Bill Paxton is in the car talking about how Arnold's test driving.
He was in that. That's right.
Yeah, Arnold's test driving the car because Bill Paxton works at a car dealership, and he's talking about how he's hooking up with this lady who's Arnold's wife, and you know, he's like, "Oh, she can suck on a meat blower," you know, and then Arnold he's belts the shit out of him in the face, but he's like dreaming or like fantasizing that. Or when Bill Paxton pissed his pants.
Yeah.
You know, you can fit that into movies.
Yeah.
But this feels forced. Or not even forced, it just feels like it's not warranted. There's no no. It's like RoboCop, you know. Imagine RoboCop walking around all of a sudden, instead of his gun out of his holster, he pulls out a pancake. You know, it's not funny. You know, like it's just not funny. But
unless he's doing an ad for pancakes.
Yeah. Or like the RoboCop, like that. I think it's Korean or Japanese. That RoboCop ad. Just check it out on YouTube. It's the.
What's he pull out?
No, it's about him. RoboCop. It's not. It's a dodgy RoboCop suit and like shining silver, like it's fake. But apparently I think it's Korean because it's a chicken ad. Right. And all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, I want some of this chicken," and then RoboCop comes in. Oh, we can kill some chicken, you know, and then lifts up the fridge and then takes out and takes a bite of the chicken and goes, "Yummy, yummy." Well, like RoboCop with the KFC ads with Peter Weller. And he voiced it. They were doing KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken ads, where RoboCop takes a bite of the chicken.
From around the time of the movie.
No, this was only a few years ago.
Right.
The KFC one. But the Korean chicken one, that was early 90s, right? I think like RoboCop 2 era.
Right.
Anyway, we digress. But so then John Connor, we go back to John Connor. He's in this vet hospital.
Popping pills.
Yeah, popping pills. And then Kate Brewster, gets a phone call from a lady saying, "Look, my cat or my dog is really crook. Can you please move?" She's like, "It's 5:30 in the morning." So she goes there to meet up with the lady to find John Connor.
I feel sorry for what happens to that lady.
Yeah.
Just wants to get her pet fixed, and she gets iced.
She gets iced, yeah. You don't see her get iced though. That's the thing. You just see her like 1 second. So yeah,
she gets shot though. You see her get shot.
Or what? It's just because you hear the gunshot, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she goes in, the lady with the pet's not there yet, but she finds the place is broken into, finds John Connor sort of smacked out on horse trank or whatever it was that he took. She because I think what happens is that John Connor's got a gun and he's pretty stoned. He's like, "Please, no, don't, just don't." No, she's like, "You need to go to a hospital." And he's like, no hospital, man. Like, and he's struggling to hold the gun up. And then she goes, "What?" Then she finds the empty pill container on the floor. She's like, "How many of these did you take?" "Well, I took all of them." These are used. Oh, no, that's right. These are used to cull and neuter horses. And so then he looks as she throws in the container. He grabs it and she just subdues him and throws him into a pet cage.
Yeah,
he's like, "Please,
and the gun was a paintball gun. It wasn't even a real gun.
It was a paintball gun.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when then he's locked in the cage, and then the lady with the I think it was either a cat or a dog walks up. "Please help my fucking pet." And all the while, this is where you have the TX, who's what's it called? The TX has already gone through the burger drive-through, Kahuna Burger, whatever it is, Ices him in the ices him in the drive-through booth.
And then she also goes. She goes to another teenager's party to ice a couple of people there.
Yeah, parents are away, and it's like a brother and sister.
Yeah.
This, and you do see this was pretty like a bit of a homage to the first movie. She knocks on the door, and the kid's like, "Oh shit, my parents are back!" Oh,
Yeah.
You know, she hears the car, and the door knock.
Put away the weed, man.
He opens up. He's like, "Hello," and he's like, "Are you?" Can't remember the name. So and so, and he's like, "Yeah."
My sister's upstairs.
My sister's upstairs, but then she scans him and finds out he's also a target, and she literally grabs him by the shirt, throws him to the floor, and she pulls out the gun and shoots the shit out of him like 6 times. Again, a homage to Terminator 1 with that.
Yeah.
That was a little cool, semi-brutal moment. But and so then John Connor is in the cage. Claire Danes or Kate Brewster's sorting out this pet, and then the TX arrives because Claire Danes is also on, or Kate Brewster's also on the list.
Yeah.
Right. So TX ends up tracking to find out she works at a vet shop. She goes to the vet shop, and then Well, does she go to the fiance's house first and ice him? That's after.
That's after.
That's
right.
after. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below here. Mind you, we only watched this movie probably 2 or 3 times. So with the
like the 20 years it's been out, because I refuse to watch it, and I will never watch it again after this. This is it.
I don't think so.
This is it. Game over. Never watching it again.
Game over, man. R.I.P. Bill Paxton. So we're going through themes for each podcast. Last one was Rick Rossovich, the man, and now we're going through Bill Paxton, even though he's not even in this movie.
That's right. He's in it.
But you know what? This movie would be a lot better if Rick Rossovich popped in. Yeah, let me bust you up, man! And the TX just cracked. Okay, that's fine. Or TX just frozen through a glass panel and
through 50 walls.
Through 50 walls. Yeah, Rick Rossovich. Yeah, the man.
Slaughter.
Mate, Rick Rossovich, you're listening to this, please send us a comment below, please.
Yeah.
And so then we find the TX arrives up at this place, and then she's speaking to John Connor when then she hears a gunshot.
Yeah.
And then finds out that the TX is infiltrated. Now this is one scene here where why?
Oh, the tasting of the blood.
The tasting of the
That
blood.
made my skin crawl, man.
Why would you program the TX to have? Imagine if the TX was a guy. You do the same thing. So now what happens is, right? Okay, so there is a gunshot. A gunshot's heard. Kate Brewster's with John Connor, and John's like, "Please get me out of here. You don't understand. Like, you need to let me go." And then Kate Brewster's like, "Is this person after you?" "I don't know. Just let me out of here." All the while, the TX is searching the other part of the veterinarian hospital and finds this bloody, bandage on the ground and does like a little analysis on it. She picks it up and puts it to her tongue and licks it, and then finds out that it's John Connor's DNA. And then she has like a semi-orgasm, like literally tunes out, and then all of a sudden she's in like full Terminator mode, and then off we go. But I always wondered, what happens if it was a guy? Would it do the same thing? Imagine if it was Arnold doing that. Let me bandage. Like how that would work. That's pretty funny. But anyway, I loathe that scene. I loathe the concept of it.
I mean, the tracking with the DNA I sort of get, but like she has tools in her hand, like that transforming hand.
Yeah, but okay, if you sample the blood, John Connor, target, okay,
yeah.
Don't make it turn into a fucking orgasm. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. I never liked that. I would have liked it if she went from, like, I don't know, full automaton robot mode, if that happened. Like, he's here and starts, like, just searching, like Arnold in T1 in the police station type deal, right? Like, go full postal. But, she orgasms, goes nuts, and then, what's it called? She ends up finding a Kate Brewster and throws her through Rick Rossovich style through a glass panel or out into the road. And this is where then she's trying to get information of finding out where John Connor is because she knows he's there because of the blood. And this is where Arnold crashes in.
He almost hits her. I had to rewatch that scene twice. Like he's flying over the top of her, isn't he, in the ute?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because he goes over the mound.
Yeah.
Hits it and then runs over and hits the TX.
Who's standing over the top of Claire Danes.
Which, mate, that's precision.
Yeah, I know. And I rewound it and I was like, no, I'm gonna watch that again because it's like, was he gonna hit her? And it's like, well, there was a chance he could have. Like,
although he is a Terminator.
But it's only due to, I suppose, the bounce. Could he predict the bounce of the ute?
I don't know, man. Like he is. He is made by Skynet, man. It's all mathematical.
Yeah, I
algorithms.
suppose.
Oh, who knows? But either way, it's
Could see the physics happening.
yeah. And then the Arnold in the classic case walks up there. So crash the TX into the wall. Explosion happens, and then Arnold comes up to Kate Brewster. Kate Brewster, come with me. And this is where it gets a bit funny because he picks her up over the shoulder, and she's like, "Put me down, put me down, put me down." And he just throws into the back of this van.
Yeah.
Now I'll get
The vet truck.
the vet truck, right? And I'll get back to that point about her saying, put me down later. Because he just ignores her and just throws her in. Then find that the
Oh,
job.
but he went to listen to her.
Yes, he throws her later on.
Yeah.
That was one of his little.
Why didn't he listen to her?
I don't know. And that's where I think it's bad writing. Because all of a sudden, yes, so.
Unless you count putting in the back of the truck as putting her down, which I think that's
No, and she's like, let me go, now granted, he's got to protect her, right?
Yeah.
And John. But they'll follow Kate Brewster's commands, which we find out they explain this in some exposition later on. But then she's like, let me out, and then he just locks her in the back of the van or whatever, and then seals it with a crowbar.
Yeah.
And so then you got John Connor who sort of escapes, and then you got the TX whose hand is like under some rubble, and you see the mechanical hand, and then the liquid alloy start coming over and regenerating. Again, I don't know if it was just the T1000, I could have settled for that. Would have been really cool.
Well, didn't you say you used to have a book in high school, T2 Infiltrator or something, where John and Sarah went to Colombia or something, wasn't it? And they met a human version of Arnold.
Yes, okay, far out. We're going back here. I think it was either Colombia or it was Portugal. It was something like that because they were off the grid, very much like Sarah Connor Chronicles style, like where they're going from place to place.
But wasn't it in that book? It was a T800 and two T1000s that went back. You were telling me something about
It was a T800 and two T1000s at this point that went back for that. But then they're bumping into a special forces unit, which was Arnold Schwarzenegger as a character. Not this Sergeant Candy shit that you see in the deleted scene that we'll get to later, which is absolute trash. But it was a commando, very much like Dutch from Predator. And they find out that the Terminators have come back not to kill John Connor or Sarah, but to actually capture Arnold's character, the commando, so they could take him back to an underground bunker and hold him there until Skynet could work on a design for it because the design's based.
Right.
Again, a little bit how you're going, right? Because in the lore, he's a Model 101, Series 850 or Series 800. So the 101 is Arnold's template, right? Then you got 102, 103, 104. So anyway, Arnold then finds John Carter and says, "Come with me," and then we start getting a little bit of a chase sequence going on.
Before that, we see the plasma shot for the first time.
Oh, from the TX's arm?
Yeah.
Yes, so the TX can also shoot plasma weapons, and it can change. It's like in a POV, you can see different types of options. You've got like something like 8 or 9 options of different weapons, and her arm can turn into those type of high energy type weapons. And so, so then we have then we got the one good thing of the movie I did like, then it had a chase scene, which was very reminiscent or supposed to be like a bit of a copy of T2 with the truck.
With the truck, yes, I was going to say, I wrote that in my notes as well, that we got another truck-based chase.
Yeah, and look, this chase wasn't so bad, to be honest.
I like how she, like we said, we may have issues with maybe her controlling the different machinery and vehicles, but the whole thing where it escalated the chase by having all the cop cars and stuff.
The massive crane.
Like all that together, I think this was actually a decent action scene.
It was a really good sequence.
Yeah,
it was a very good sequence, very good effects, stunts, and then they had a bit of CGI on here as well too, to sort of with the illusion, like Arnold on the crane going through the walls and all that sort of jazz. But the one thing, and again, if this movie was made today, you might have gone away with it. But how the flying hell can the TX remotely connect to a car or more than one car remotely when they've got its own independent power source, man? If it was today and cop cars were electric cars, which are connected to the net or to the network, maybe you might be able to take over it.
Yes.
Because I think even there was a group, I remember reading this once about, the Kias, the car brand Kia. I think it was either the Stinger, which is like their performance vehicle. There was a gang that could actually hack into the Kia computer remotely and unlock the car,
right?
So they could steal them,
yeah.
right? But,
no need for like the little
the classic old way of breaking
with
in the car.
the coat hanger or whatever.
Well, it's almost null and void these days with modern
yeah.
cars anyway. But yeah. So my point being though is that if the cop cars are electric cars, then yeah, maybe you could connect remotely through the cell towers and shit.
Yeah.
But you're connecting to a fucking whatever type of car, a normal combustion engine car with probably a very small computer, which is probably not connected to the actual engine itself. Like she's managed to actually even make the cars go faster. You see a scene where the accelerator pedal just goes down. How the hell do you do that? By connecting via an ADSL modem type deal.
There's like a 28k modem in the cop car.
There's a 56k, old school. Yeah.
I only had a 28k. I only really upgraded the 56.
Oh, man.
I was so excited. Do you remember those days when you were excited when you got like a slightly faster modem?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was. I was never allowed to use it because I always hooked up the phone line, and all my parents had to do was disconnect the phone line. I was fucked. But yeah. So then you have the chase sequence, which is a really good sequence. The one thing I noticed though in this film is that there is fuck all music in this film. The chase sequence, there's no music. So, in our previous podcast, right, talked about Brad Fiddel's music to a great extent, right? It was synthesized, electronic, it suited the mood, but the music complemented the film, right? And in most films, in most good films, soundtrack always complements it's its own story, or it's its own character, if you will, making the story up.
Yeah.
In this film, there is fuck all music. In that chase scene, there is no music. I know there's a lot of crashes and glass breaking and all that stuff, but there is no music. Like, it's very... I don't like it. The music in this movie, by the way, was done by Marco Beltrami, who, he done a lot of, like, Halloween H2O.
Oh, yep.
I don't think he did the Faculty. I've got to look up his IMDb stuff, but he did, like, horror movies. So even some of the cues in this film are horror cues. Cheesy horror cues, like the TX is looking around in the veterinary place and you just ding, ding, cheesy. But and then you've got your major action sequences where there is no music at all. Yeah. The only thing with the soundtrack, since we're on that topic, which I didn't mind, was the soundtrack right at the very end when the bombs were dropping.
Yeah.
Right. That was a really good. It was very orchestrated in this film for when you did have music cues. It was orchestrated. It wasn't so much synthesized. But music was pretty much absent through most of this film.
Yep.
The chase sequence happens. The TX is in a crane. Arnold is going on the cop bike. Good old homage to the T-1000.
I do like the crane, but it's different to the past two movies where they were like more tankers, weren't they?
That's correct. Yes. But so you got the scene where the cranes are smashing the electricity poles. And the cars are exploding. That's real. They used on one of Boeing's facilities.
Right.
And actually made it into a set and actually just put all this stuff up. But see, these effects are fantastic.
I like how Arnold's on the cop bike. It's like T2, where T1000, now they're reversing the cop bike.
Yep, they're on the bike, and Arnold's always going to be on a bike, right? It's a given.
I feel like he has a one-liner with that cop when he pulls him out, and he's like, get off or something. He jumps on the bike.
Get off, whoosh. Too bad it's not get out. But, so then the chase sequence ensues, and then you have this really great, I think this was part CGI with this, when the crane flips, and then, it explodes. But I think overall as a sequence, it's it's probably one of the best sequences in the film for me. It really did bring back a bit of that T2 vibe, just missing the music. So then that's when you get a little bit of exposition, because, John Connor is like, John Connor's going to the T800. This is a T850, right?
So what's the difference between the 50 and the 800?
All right, so the T850. So I think there was a reason the writers wrote up, because there's a part when John Connor's speaking to Arnold about, hey, we stopped Judgment Day, we killed Skynet. You shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, John Connor, you dumb shit. Your mom's been raising you, telling you all about this future war. There's Terminators, there's more than one, and he's like talking as if, oh, hey, but you shouldn't be here. You've been into a pot of molten lava. He doesn't actually say that, but he's talking as if like, well, how are you here?
Yeah.
And not realizing they're all fucking assembly lines, champ. It's more than one model. They got replicas of the stuff, and so during while they're having this talk. Because John Connor's like, we stopped Judgment Day, we did all this Cyberdyne. Does that ring any bells? I am a different model.
Yeah, that's right. He says, "Hasta la vista, baby," all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
and this is where it gets a bit confusing because even so, if we go back to where Arnold leaves the country club and takes the clothes, right, and he gets into a car and takes off. When he breaks into the car, when he breaks into the car,
Oh, he pulls down the
he
keys.
pulls down the visor
Yeah.
and the keys come down, which is a homage to T2, but that was a different model.
Yeah.
So John Connor taught the old T800 that, but yet that's programmed into his thing, which I think then, now I'm thinking about it, links to a point in some of this exposition. So John says, why, we stopped Judgment Day, and then he's like, I'm a different model, and he's like, Judgment Day hasn't been stopped, you just postponed it. Judgment Day is inevitable.
Which the theme of this, I suppose, is it's not no fate but what you make. It's that all events in time are inevitable. You can just change the order of them.
Yes.
Something.
Yes, yeah, 100%. And this is where it could have been a really good concept with like a Legion type thing, where it's not Skynet. It's maybe another country developing an AI system, or someone else in the DoD is developing something that's called something else. Because I'll tell you, if I was working for the DoD and I was in charge of, and I took all of Cyberdyne's IP, because say Cyberdyne went bust and they had Skynet, I know I want to get myself a promotion. I'll probably rename it something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, take it from me and just steal the work.
Yeah. Well, that's like the anime that came out on Netflix where it has that Japanese.
Kokomo or Kodomo?
I watched it once. I got to watch it.
I'm gonna watch it again.
Yeah, yeah.
That got cancelled, by the way. Do you know that? It didn't get renewed. So the Tom Tolkien, who wrote the series, I think he directed most of it as well too.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but he wrote it anyway. But his idea was a 5-season treatment.
Right. So it's only lasted one, basically.
And then Netflix decided only a couple of weeks ago decided to they're not renewing it, and that's such a great.
They never renewed
it.
stuff.
Highly recommend Terminator Zero. So yeah, so John, they're talking about this, and this is where back to your question about what's the difference between an 850 and an 800. Again, it's not really mentioned in the movie. It's just my educated guess. So Arnold is like, he's glitching and he's like, I need a cutting tool, and so he cuts open. He's burning. He's like, he's steaming up, and he needs a cutting tool, and so he gets a knife or something from John Connor, cuts open his stomach, and he's got these
the fuel cells.
He's got these 2 hydrogen fuel cells, and so one of them's damaged. He takes it out and throws it out of the car, and you got this semi-nuke explosion that happens. Now that's what I think the difference is between an 850 and an 800 is, because if the original 800s had hydrogen fuel cells, when Sarah Connor crushed the original T800 in that fucking press, no doubt that would have ruptured a fuel cell and created a nuclear fucking explosion.
Okay.
And not to mention the T1000, all he would have had to do is somehow pierce enough damage into the endoskeleton to be able to rupture a fuel cell.
Yes.
Especially if he stabbed it through the back in T2. I would have stabbed it where the fuel cells were. So that's what I think the difference is between an 850 and an 800.
Yeah, that would have blown up the whole facility and killed everyone.
Oh, yeah, and destroyed evidence. Skynet would have been gone for sure.
Yeah.
Or if Arnold went into the molten lava, we would have had this little explosion of molten lava. Maybe, I don't know how physics works with hydrogen fuel cells in lava, but molten rock.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, that's how we find out a bit about the 850. And then they go to the service station.
So we've got the shoplifting scene where he's grabbing everything, like lolly displays off the counter. Look, I found this mildly funny, but I'm like, man, he's meant to blend in as a human. He must know that stealing shit, like,
well, no,
draw the cops, man. I don't know, like.
You reckon though? Because
I don't know.
Think about T1.
Where are all those people?
Well, no, when he goes to the phone booth.
Yeah.
And the guy's in the phone booth's like, yeah, honey, I'll be there later. Hey, come and get me. And he just throws the guy off.
Yeah.
So I think that's more of a T1000 thing. I think about that group blending in.
Okay.
He's just programmed as a robot to do what he has to do. So I like this. And he does the whole, again, talk to the hand. So I don't know if his switch was set to read or write when he got sent back. So it would have been good to have a bit of information about that, because in T2 they had to flick the switch.
Yeah.
So you find out that Kate Brewster's trying to escape, and she's like, let me down, let me go. And he just throws her back into the back of the van. And they proceed on, and this is where they have a bit of exposition between John Connor and Kate Brewster in the back of the van. Now, this is where they talk about Mike's basement, someone's basement, right?
Yeah.
So Kate Brewster went to school with John Connor, and she's like, hey, you're John Connor. Like, so this was said in the veterinarian place, but it's like, hey, you're John Connor, Mike's basement. If it's Mike, correct me, forgive me, I can't remember the name of the basement. But they're saying how, like, yeah, we hooked up, we kissed. And then the next day, you were gone. You
Yeah.
just disappeared, which was when T2 happened. So they do know each other. But then they talk about Mike's basement a bit more. And then now that Kate Brewster sort of sees the T800 or T850, like it's real. Like, so she's not just being kidnapped by some psycho. There's actually some real world shit at play here happening from the future. And so she's coming around. But then that's when John Connor finds out that, you know, like, I'm supposed to be this destined leader. And she doesn't know why Kate Brewster is being targeted. And then Arnold's like, well, T850 is like, no, because she is your wife. And then they proceed to, so then from there, they then proceeding to another scene.
The funeral scene.
No, just before that, this is where the TX goes to Claire Danes' fiance's house.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And kills him and then takes over his, like,
You just hear a saw whirring, don't you? You just hear a saw fire up.
That's right. You don't see him actually cop it. You don't see him get iced. Again, they cut all this crap out. If they had this in there, it would be a little bit more bearable to watch. But and then the cops rock up saying that, you know, the fiance who's now the TX, saying, "Oh, look, your fiance is kidnapped." So he jumps along for the ride. And then we get to the funerals. To the cemetery scene.
This was actually my favourite scene back in 03 when I first watched it, where he's wielding the casket in one hand and the machine gun in the other.
Yep. So here, this is where you find out that Sarah Connor actually died.
Yeah, of leukemia.
So he died of leukemia, which is okay. I had to read more into this because I'm a big fan of the Sarah Connor Chronicles, right?
Yeah.
Which is something we do have to review over time. And if no one's ever watched the Sarah Connor Chronicles, like, mark my words, it is probably the best thing since T2 to watch as a series. It really carries on the story. It's done by the same production company of T3.
Yeah.
But I had to double check because in the series they keep referring to Sarah Connor, played by Lena Headey.
Yeah, from
Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
That she's might have leukemia or cancer, and it's a common theme throughout the series. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is actually linked to that, but it is not. But in the movie,
they took it and put it into the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
They did. They used it as a moving theme.
Yeah.
So you find out that you know, they go find her body, and to find out that it's a casket full of weapons.
Yeah.
And I think was there a tape in there that had one of Sarah Connor's recorded tapes?
Oh, I'll check my notes.
Yeah.
But I just remember after that that's where the cops are around and he goes out with his machine gun and his casket. And Dr. Silverman's there.
Yeah, so they have to go on bottom. Dr. Silverman rocks up, which is quite funny actually, because when so there's like an attack, and I think that's right. John loses his shit because the cops rock up and he's like, "Let him kill me. I'm the one. You know, if they kill me, because you know he's suicidal, taken still. They kill me. This will all be over." And Arnold does this whole thing. The T800 or T850 goes up to him and just grabs him by the throat and he's like, "You will like reverse psychology or something?" Like trying to be like a
sergeant. Says he's trained in psychology. He's trying to fire him up.
Yes. And it's funny. So whereas like the original T800 that John had an affiliation with, which was more like a father figure, this T850 is more like a drill sergeant, you know, trying to sort of just harden John up. But Kate Brewster runs outside and she's getting medical treatment from the medics, and this is where you find Dr. Silverman rocking up.
Yeah.
One thing I found hilarious though, right, was he's working for the sheriff's department now. So whereas in part one he worked for the cops,
yeah,
right, and then he obviously got promoted and ran a psych ward in a hospital in part two.
Yeah.
It was like sort of being demoted into the sheriff's department, which is like a really low level thing to be working as a psychologist. And he ends up making this thing going, you know, I like how he's like, sometimes you see things, crazy things, insane things, you know.
And then we have the scene where the TX because she's sitting in the back of the car disguised as the fiance, and she puts her arm through the stomach of the copper to take control of the wheel.
Oh, that's right. On the way down. Yeah. How's it flying? Okay, how the fuck is she controlling the speed? So she punches her hand through the back seat.
She's relying on the weight of the body to have its foot on the pedal.
Mate, if the body's dead, there's a good possible chance one of two things will happen. The foot falls off the accelerator and the car slows down, or the foot bloody hits the pedal to the metal and she's going at max speed. How is she controlling the speed of the car?
Once again, this is poor riding.
I'm having an aneurysm, man. All right.
An aneurysm. Like nanobots in you causing your aneurysm.
It's too much. It's too much. Anyway, so then Oh, but don't even get me started. There's a scene coming up here which really fucking pissed me off. So Dr. Silverman speaking to Kate Brewster, you know, and then all of a sudden, you have Arnold walking out with the casket, you know, full of weapons. And this is where, okay, you got the SWAT team, right? The county SWAT team. SWAT team are professionals, man. They're like special forces for police, you know? And so what you find though is you expect a level of professionals. Again, poor writing and shit comedy. This is the police. Put down the gun. And then he's like, and the coffin. If I was in charge of the SWAT team, I'd be like, put the weapon down now, like what they did in T2.
Yeah.
One more time, last warning, put it down. And he's not, all right, drop him. Like, because I loved that in part 2. Like,
Yeah.
put it down, face down on the ground, now. And he's just walking, okay, drop him. Like, no hesitation.
Yeah.
Fucking bang, bang. Man, this cop guy, this SWAT leader thing, put down the gun. And the coffin. Fuck that, line him up. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, that goes back to, I think, T3's comedy approach.
shit approach.
Yeah,
Sorry, apologies. I'm getting a little bit frustrated here.
you are. You're getting quite heated.
I am. It's warm. But anyway, so they end up going. They've got the SWAT commander's like, screw this, just shoot him. Let's go, shoot him. And they're shooting. And then Arnold, in his classic fashion, is like shooting rounds, but again, not killing anybody, right? So shooting the vehicles, they're exploding. And then Dr. Silverman sees in slow motion, like, have you seen Arnold? And just decides to bolt for it, just run.
That's the last we see of him. That's it. That's him out of the franchise. He doesn't show up.
Well, hey, and that's the thing, right? Sarah Connor Chronicles, they go back to him.
Oh,
So it's
right.
not a different actor, but they
Yeah.
do find Dr. Silverman, who's now in the series. He's living in seclusion after what happened in T2. He's gone nuts himself.
Right.
So, because he doesn't know what's real. So, it's not the end of him in the whole Terminator franchise, but in the movie franchise, he's done. So, and then Arnold, takes one of those funeral vehicles.
The hearse.
And John Connor's hiding in the casket as well. They escape. The TX rocks up, and then Arnold shoots a rocket at her, and she goes flying again. Shitty CGI, crashing through those tombstones.
Yeah, she disguised as the fiance. She'd tried to get Claire Danes.
Yeah, keep going.
Well, doesn't she come out of the car and
If anyone's listening to this, put the movie on and go to that scene where you see Kate Brewster's fiance, who's disguised as the TX in disguise, right? Watch what happens, right? So her job is to kill Kate Brewster, right? And obviously now John Connor, because she knows John's alive.
Yeah.
Or John's there, sorry. What's it called? The fiance, TX as the fiance, gets out of the cop car and is walking towards Claire. Claire's
the blood on the arm and stuff like
I
that.
don't think she notices that, because the idea is that she gets out and then, I think his name's Scott, maybe. I can't remember what his name is in the film. But then she's like 100 meters or 50 meters away. And she's like, oh, hey, let's say Scott. Let's say his name's Scott for the sake of argument, right? Hey, Scott. Hey, what? Oh, you're alive. Oh, my God, I'm so worried. And he's just walking, 20 meters away. The TX decides to reveal herself. Why the fuck would you do that? Why would you not walk up and go, hey, honey, oh my God, you're alive, I miss you, come here, let me give you a hug and stab. You know what I mean?
Like the T1000.
Like the T1000. Why the fuck would you want to expose yourself as the TX so she had a chance to run away?
Yeah.
Shit writing.
Yeah.
Let's crack on. So, in the end, as the TX is about to, kill Kate Brewster, Arnold comes in with a rocket launcher, shoots the TX, she goes flying, shitty CGI with the tombstones, and then they escape, right? And then you got Arnold with that classic line, "We need a new vehicle," because their car is absolutely fucking smashed.
Yeah, he skidded under a truck to escape.
That's
She
right.
was hanging off the roof and using like her saws or whatever to cut through.
That's right. And this is where you sort of see all the different weapons that she has, like some disruptors, some chem tech, a few other really wild things where I'm like, okay, you're an advanced model, but how much more advanced from the events in the future war could Skynet have developed something like an anti-Terminator Terminator?
And then she lands on the flamethrower arm.
Yeah, the flamethrower arm, that's right. So this is here where we get a bit more exposition, right? Now, okay, I'll check my notes again, actually, because I'm not sure if it was in this part of the exposition or the first part of the exposition where you find out that John's actually asking the T-850 questions. and he's not really answering them, right?
Yes,
And he
no, that is in this scene. That's after this chase, I believe.
Yeah, and he says he can't answer them, but then when Kate Brewster asks a question, he answers, and then you find out that Arnold only responds to Kate Brewster's commands, and this is where I go back to the first quarter of the movie, where she's like, "Put me down, put me down, put me down," and
He doesn't.
he doesn't, right? Now, there could be some command override if you're really
Yeah,
nitpicky, but, John Connor, let go, damn it, from T2. Hey, get this guy up and let me go. And he lets him go. He's like, why'd you do that?
Cause you told me to.
So, again, the writing, like, they didn't explain that, right? So, you find out that the T-850 only answers questions from Kate Brewster. And then you find out that John Connor actually died in the future war, and that he was reprogrammed by Kate Brewster to go back and actually, protect Kate or find John Connor and protect Kate Brewster and the lieutenants, right?
And it's funny too, because like he also says the Skynet chose that model because that model, he had an emotional attachment to it based off his experiences in T2.
Yes, that's correct. And this is probably going to go back to my previous point about the about how the T850, when it leaves the club, it goes into the car and knows better to check the visor. So what you find out is that that this Terminator, this particular 850 model that's in the film, actually killed John Connor. So it actually infiltrated. It was programmed by Skynet. It infiltrated the resistance, pretending to be the same model or the same Terminator from T2, showing all the mannerisms, all the things it learned. Granted, its switch was probably set to read only, but it was programmed with these things. How did Skynet find out about these things? We don't know. It was never explained. But that's how it infiltrated it. It ended up killing John Connor, and somehow it got the T-850 got subdued. And got reprogrammed by Kate Brewster and got sent back in time only for to follow Kate Brewster's orders only. I think it was more just to protect Kate Brewster than anything else. They wouldn't have known John Connor where it was or where he is because he's been off the grid for so long.
Yeah.
So then you find out about that, right? I found it was actually, I like the concept. Again, that could have been a really good part to put in that third film, Future War idea.
I didn't even think about the thing you just brought up where maybe Skynet programmed it to act a certain way. So John thought it was the one from number 2. I just thought they chose an Arnold lookalike one and sent it in and just get his defenses down a tad. So I didn't even think about that. Like maybe it did have the mannerisms.
Mate, look, since we're picking up on really poor writing for this film, like I just made that shit up, right?
Yeah.
About the whole, maybe that's why he knew how to flip the visor down. But then again, I like sort of.
But if that was built in, then there might have been other stuff built in when he met him.
But then I contradict that with. It's contradictory though, because then it's like, how did Skynet know those things that John Connor programmed in the T-800 when it boiled itself or melted itself in the molten shit at the end of the film? How does Skynet know about those programming bits that young John Connor did in T2? We don't know. So this is where I'm going on the assumption when they actually wrote this film or wrote this movie and made it, the whole visor thing was just, there was no reason. It's just a fucking thing. I don't know.
Callback.
Yeah, because... the other way that could be though would be that maybe that Kate Brewster reprogrammed him in the future. They
knew a few things and were like,
because it's John's wife in the future, so maybe he explained about what he taught with the T-800, and then she's like, okay, maybe I programmed these things. They don't explain this, and this is where this movie can be so frustrating. Yeah. Because if they elaborated some of this stuff or showed some more future war stuff, throwing this into the mix, it could be okay. Okay, not great, not grandiose, but okay. But they don't answer these. This movie leaves a lot of questions asked than questions answered.
Yes.
Right? So then you find out though as well that another target is Kate Brewster's dad, the general, right? Which then John makes this claim, going, "Holy shit, Mike's basement." So that meant that like if the T-800 and the T-1000, or T-1000 didn't come after me that day when I was jigging school playing Afterburner at the arcades. Yeah. Right? we would have, because we hooked up beforehand, we would have probably stayed hooked up and through school. And then if that happened. And then he goes, I would have met your dad. Yeah. Right? And then that's how John would have become this really great leader. Because the question's always asked, how did John Connor get involved in the military to be this big military leader when he's a little shit of a kid, right? Like, you know, and he's living with foster parents and all this sort of stuff. How did John become this in the future? And it sort of hints at going, well, to go to Claire Danes or Kate Brewster, going, hey, well, if I didn't get picked up, that none of that shit happened that day, we would have dated. I would have met your father, who works for the Department of Defense, and I would have then known about Skynet in the future war. Because I think that they say in the movie that the TX is targeting the lieutenants, but also the General Brewster's also on this. He's not a lieutenant.
Yeah.
So I think he's more like probably one of John's like senior advisors, more like a general or a colonel or something like that in the future war, supporting John Connor. Because remember, John Connor has hacking attributes and stuff. So that's how
with his little Atari or whatever it was.
Great little system. So then you find out that Kate Brewster's dad's being targeted for termination, and so she orders the Terminator to go to let's go save my dad.
Yeah.
Right. Then we flip back from there into back into the DoD military installation there, the cybernetics division there, where they're finding out that this virus is now taking over some key military infrastructure, like actual. And so I do like this though, because he's speaking. I think the general's speaking to the Joint Chiefs.
Yeah.
Or the Joint Chiefs, like, or was it the Secretary of State or whatever it is? A politician.
Yeah.
Going, hey, General Brewster, this Skynet thing you developed, will it take out the? Will it kill this virus? This virus is starting now take over our infrastructure, you know, and like all over the world and shit. And he's just like, look, I don't recommend it, but it can do the job. It's like shooting a fly with a bazooka.
Yeah.
It's well, can you control it? Can you control this thing? And he's like, oh yeah, we can, but I'm warning you, it's not thoroughly tested yet.
Yeah. And it's like if you let it in, it's going to have access to everything.
Right? Which it's funny though, because he's hesitant. I like how he's hesitant of saying yes, but then the secretary or whoever it was, is going, can you control it? And he's like, hesitantly, yeah, we can.
Yeah. No,
he fucking can't. You know what I mean? So the general doesn't want to go for that yet because he wants to wait for the testing to be over. So it's one of those. I like how they sort of debate that, but all the while in the background, you notice, and this is where again, it's frustrating. You start seeing the aerials, the mini version of an aerial, flying
like a drone version.
But still, it's like the same design, that sleek design, not that James Cameron greatness or Stan Winston greatness we saw in parts 1 and 2. And then you also see a little cameo, right? Well, it's not really a cameo at the time, but you sort of see a TX in the left part of the frame. You see an endoskeleton, but it's got the blue shit. So it's like the TX. So it's like, what, are they designing endoskeletons already in 2003? Like, are they designing Terminators already? It never made sense to me why they'd escalate to that level. Because I don't think Skynet was ever there until later on, where they were developing the 600 series with rubber skin. You know,
the only ones they had in the storage here that the TX activates are I've got it written here, the T1-2. That are the ones with the miniguns, like they're like the little
crawly fake thing.
Yeah.
Okay, can I ask you a question about that? Why is it called a T1? Why would you think it's called a T1? I understand the 1 because it's probably the first model of its time.
Yeah.
Why the T?
Oh yeah, you're right. It was Terminator like.
Terminator is either a slang term or it's something that Skynet ended up developing later on as like a T600 or a T800. Why has it got the T? Do they approve on calling these things Terminators?
Yeah.
Like it would have been good if it was like, I don't know, DOD serial number 2-5-01. You know what I mean? Like there was an asset number, not
THX.
But not THX 1138. Great film. And, yes. But why the T? That always frustrated me.
Condolences out, Robert Duvall, the man. Passed the other day. Sorry.
Yeah.
Random thing I just jumped in my head there.
I gotta watch Days of Thunder now.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, I love that movie.
Yeah.
And THX 1138. If you haven't watched that, please. It's a great film. Actually.
Apocalypse Now, Godfather 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Might have made number 3 better if he was in it. You know.
I hate that movie. I think number 3 would have been shit either way for the way it was written. But so they end up going into, they make their way towards the DoD complex, and this is where you have the TX is infiltrated it, dressed up as an airman or an airwoman, inside the facility, and all the while they're designing they're in the process of getting ready to turn Skynet online to eliminate this virus. So we got the film on in the background here just for us, just for some extra pointers. And hey, Link, I want to show you this just quickly. And for those who are listening, if you go to the movie and go to 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 40 seconds. Oops, I just flopped that by 10 seconds back. Let's pause. There's your aerial, right? What the fuck is that on the left side of the screen?
Oh, yeah. So
It's a blue endoskeleton that looks much more futuristic and complex and badass than or not badass. It looks much more futuristic than the T-800, yet they're designing this in real time 2003 in the movie. What the fuck?
Yeah. I didn't even notice that, actually, so that's a pick up.
Oh, trash! Absolute trash. And speaking about trash, they've got a deleted scene, right, in this film. They talk about Sergeant Candy.
Yeah.
Right? And so what this idea is, thank God they didn't put this into the movie, because even as a fucking 17-year-old watching this, I would have walked out the moment I heard Arnold open his mouth. Now, it's not actually Arnold talking in this, it's a voiceover. But you've got, it's a promotional ad for the DOD to go, hey, we got this new cybernetics division, new AI, we're going to make the world safe. And then you see Arnold in a beret and in cams or in military uniform. And he's talking, and he's talking in a southern accent, and it's a different voice, right? It's not Arnold's voice; it's another actor. But he's like, "Hi, I'm Sergeant Candy. We're here to go test the new AI system to make your world safer." And then they shine a what's it called? It's like not a paper mache. It's like a model of his face, right? Yeah. And in the background, I'm pretty sure this T-800 is being built on a rack. And then he's like, "Well, yeah, so here to make your world safer." It goes to the face, and he's like, "Hey, that looks like me." And it's like Arnold's face, like from Terminator, like that blanks, and he does the blank thing. And then one of the scientists is like, "Yeah, I know the ad's good, but I don't like the sound of that voice." And you got this nerdish guy who looks like the scientist from The Simpsons. Yeah. And then goes, "We can fix it," but in Arnold's voice.
Yeah, we can fix the voice. We can fix it.
I fucking loathe that scene. If I swear, I would have walked out of that film there and then if I saw that.
But it's funny because I remember I was watching this movie. I would have been 16 or 17 at the time. We were at like a random family friend's birthday, and I was with some cousins, and we're watching it. And one of my cousins made the joke, and he's like, "Oh, look, it's the first android to ever be taught to speak with an Austrian accent." And I'm like, "Yeah, like you're right. Like, why does he? Besides Arnold being Arnold, like." But then you could think of things like, well, maybe it having an accent. Skynet thought that would mean it could integrate in a time travel sense, or maybe make it more human if it wasn't just a generic American. And you know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. They sort of they expanded the concept a little bit in Terminator Salvation, but more so in the Terminator Resistance game, the PC game that came out in 2018 or 2019. And they don't talk about the voice part, but what they do, there is a great part in the game where you're infiltrating a hospital. Right?
Yeah.
And you're going through and you find out that it's actually Skynet's taken over that hospital, is doing experiments on people, right? But then what you find is like an operating table, and you see a dead body on there that's been like hung, drawn, and quartered, like it's being messed up. And it's actually Robert Patrick's character from the T-1000 as a resistance fighter. So Skynet's actually, and in Salvation they do have scenes too where they are experimenting on people, right? Doing all these experiments. So the idea would be that they would have captured. So in the game canon, Robert Patrick, or his body anyway, was whatever his character was called in the game. His character didn't actually have a name, but the character was a resistance fighter that was captured by Skynet and experimented on and became the template.
Yeah,
for the T-1000.
Everything.
So we'll only doubt though that we'll only come to believe then that Arnold, wherever they got his character from, and again in the T2 Infiltrator books, he was a commando and all that, but in the games doesn't really elaborate at all. But they would have had someone of Arnold Schwarzenegger's body and voice as a person captured, experimented on, and used it as a template with the natural voice. But it also has the ability to change voices.
Yeah,
because it has to have a voice. Something has to have a voice, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a side quest on the little bit of the Terminator lore. Now, as we proceed through, and the TX has infiltrated the military installation. You see all these T1s.
T1-2.
T1-2, again, the T.
If that's the model number for all of them, I don't know. -2 could just be that model.
I think the T1-2 is purely that model there, because you got T1-3 and 4 moving along there. So the TAC attack, and the number is just the number of
Yeah.
the model. But then what happens is the TX got this new capability where with nanoids, I guess, or nanotechnology, she puts this little probe thingy out of her finger and then like installs a software update to it so that it activates and then becomes succumbent to the TX's commands. So then you start seeing though that now this virus is expeditiously starting to take over infrastructure. And then you start seeing that now that the general's made the call to bring Skynet online. And I do like this scene where it's like it's loaded up and you can see on the screen there it's got like things like, you know, Marine Corps unit this and Navy unit this, and all the military units that are attached to the defense network, all sort of listed at the end. It's like execute, yes or no. Yeah, and it's that scene where, you know, it's off we go, let's go, and so we activate Skynet. Then we find out that the actual virus that was infiltrating everything was Skynet. It was a ploy by Skynet to be able to get Skynet actually brought online.
Fine.
So this is, I didn't mind this part of the movie where they depict Skynet as software.
Yeah.
Not so much a piece of hardware.
Yeah.
It was software.
Like it's a core.
Yeah, and then that's how it was though, right? Skynet was always supposed to be software, right? And then it built the hardware infrastructure around it to be able to protect itself. So yeah, they turned Skynet on. It's taking over. It's killed the virus, but all of a sudden the alarms start going off. They start losing control of the situation.
And we got a like a jump here that I don't like. How did the Terminator, John and Claire, get into the facility?
Oh, don't even get. I don't know. With an AK-47.
Yeah, and I had to rewind this as well and be like, I've missed a scene. I must have missed something, like I blacked out, you know. And how did they get in? And it's not there. Is that a deleted scene? Do you know?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And I need to have to remind you, go back to T2. How hard was it for them to fucking get into Cyberdyne?
Yeah.
You know, Joe Norton, the man, you know, rolls dice and goes in with, you know, Sarah Arnold and young John Connor. And, you know, hey, what's your name?
Carl.
Carl? Hey, Carl. Got some friends from out of town. I'd like to show them the lab. Mr. Dyson, you know the rules. There's no one allowed here between the times of fucking 9 p.m. and fucking 6 a.m.
Yeah.
You get clearances and blah, and the gun comes out.
Yeah.
I was just like, and then it was within a matter of what, probably fucking 5 minutes, you had the fucking whole LA police department rocking up. Imagine trying to do something like that to get into a military installation and make it past the front fucking door.
Yeah.
Yet somehow, unscathed, they all rock up with an AK-47. I never.
Yeah. That's probably the worst piece of writing I think I've seen in this.
Like, it would have been good if they got captured, put into a cell. The old man gets the call. Hey, General, your daughter's here with some bad people. Like, we've locked them up in lockup. And then they try, and maybe it's like the police station escape.
Yeah.
You know, they have to try to make their way through.
Yeah.
While, you know, compromising security.
Well, the TX is going through it.
Well, the TX is just laying waste, you know, because then you start getting the part where you only see the half decent amount of action besides the car chase, where the TX the T1-1, 2s, 3s, 4s start just lighting everyone up.
Yeah.
And you see a little bit of gore with it. There's some people getting like shot in the back, but it's very mundane. It's very low on the I guess the goriness part of that. But Skynet's taken over. The T1s are going absolute fucking ham on everybody. The TX is now, you know, also joining in on laying waste to everybody. The compound is starting to be set on fire. And no, that's right. The general also gets shot.
Yeah. The TX shows up pretending to be Claire.
That's right.
And then shoots him. And then they escape with him to his little office with his war safe.
Yep.
With the code book that
Crystal Peak?
Yeah, Crystal Peak code book or whatever it is. Yeah, and he dies on the couch. You know.
Yeah.
Like, was it look after my daughter?
Look after my daughter, John.
Yeah.
Go to Crystal Peak.
Yeah.
You know? And so you think you think that you know Crystal Peak is where, like, they believe it's like that's where like the Skynet core is. So you're like, okay, we need to go to Crystal Peak. And then, you know, and so, General Brewster passes away, and then Arnold's just laying to waste with his fucking machine gun. And this is the other part, that's right, the fucking aerials. The same model you see in that future war flashback dream sequence at the start of the movie to now. They've got that shit already designed and built now.
In a mini version.
It doesn't matter. It's still designed. It's bullshit. So that shoots like a missile through there. Arnold deflects it. Claire Danes is, acting as it is. I always like Claire Danes. You should watch Homeland, actually.
I do. I've seen the whole.
Have you seen Homeland?
Yeah, good. The only thing I don't like about that is, sorry, side note, people, is that character gets away with more fucking, bullshit in like disobeying authority than most people would use their job after doing it once or twice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but she was like that asset. And she also had Mandy Patinkin's character that looked
But
after.
you remember when they were in like in a hotel room and she was running to tell someone something that he didn't want him to know, and he told the sniper to shoot her? Like he shot his own worker to stop her.
Yeah.
It's like, we won't fire her up, I will shoot her in the shoulder.
Yeah. Exactly. So they're trying to escape. The TX catches them. That's where Arnold and the TX have that one-on-one in the hallway there.
Yeah.
He whacks her head with like a fire extinguisher or something. Then I like the whole head doing the flip around thing.
It's like a horror movie thing.
Yeah, I like that. Again, we got fuck all music. There's no music here at all. Oh, sorry, my microphone accidentally got spun around. Disregard.
Yeah.
Hold on. And we are back. The head spins around.
Actually, there's a thing where she grapples him and also spins her legs around or something, isn't it, as well, at one point?
Oh, that's right. And she kicks him in the balls.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, what's going on? But I do like when he picks up the urinal and belts the shit out of the whip.
I mean, it's your typical Terminator fight scene, like from 2, where they're just smashing each other through stuff, picking up random objects.
The problem is with this, there's a lot of CGI. Not so much with when you see like the handling between the TX and the T850.
Yeah.
The T850, like T850, that's a person, that's Arnold or a stuntman.
Yeah.
Like, but you see the TX, that's CGI in there. When they're actually fighting each other, like pretty much going through the toilet.
Oh right, yep.
It's very CGI based. Again, just parlance of the time, I guess, with filmmaking. Yeah, but I do like how he just dumps her head through the fucking urinal.
Yeah.
And pushes through all the cubicles. Like it's a good scene. I do like it. It's a bit more of an upgrade from the T1000 fight in T2. And so Arnold cops it. Gets a flamethrower on the face.
First watch to the face. Yeah.
Yep. But then I'm pretty sure it's from that scene then that when she ends up like connecting or drops the nanite technology.
Oh, that's why she takes over him. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then
She hacks him.
right? So all the while John and Kate are trying to escape. I do like the part where they're running through this this conduit room.
Oh yeah, where he turns up the magnetic sort of effect.
And it's and I do like this actually. I like how she gets he turns up the electromagnetic field within this conduit, and then she gets stuck to the pipe.
Yeah,
right.
The liquid polymimetic alloy is leaking
it's sucking. Oh yeah, pretty much getting leaked off the skin. But even like for Christina Loken as an actress, her body is actually like lying against that thing with her back, like literally like hyperextending.
Yeah.
Over the on the piping there. That's actually her doing that.
Yeah.
So imagine trying to do takes and hold your body there for that long.
Yeah.
Pretty intense stuff. But I do like the effect of that trying to actually, the only thing I didn't really appreciate, I know it frustrated me a little bit. I know the T1000 in T2. When he gets shot, he only gets set on the liquid nitrogen, and when he gets shot with the grenade launcher at the end, he has that look of shock on his face. Yeah. The only 2 times, and obviously him in the molten lava, he's screaming and being stupid. Like, cool. But here, like, she looks like when she's being magnetized, you see her eyes, and she's like freaking out. Like she looks like that's not scared, but she's like, oh shit, I can't fucking move, man. And then the stuff starts melting off her body, and you start seeing the endoskeleton frame.
Yeah.
So they escape. I like the part where they go to the hangar. That's to get into the plane to go to Crystal Peak.
This is where 850 is like trying to stop himself from killing him.
Yeah, he's like, he's telling him, go now, don't be near me. And then his CPU's damaged, and he's saying go. But then he doesn't want to leave, and then all of a sudden Arnold catches up to him and starts beating the shit out of John Connor and is about to kill him, but then Arnold then powers down because he's trying to override the TX's hacking software into his CPU. I do like that. I do like this because this is something where it's like, in reality, it's like, hey, what was if a T850, if this close, you've never seen a T850 this close to John Connor, or a T800 that's the baddie so close. Yeah. But then Arnold powers down. And
it makes sense with the hacking aspect. Why wouldn't you hack the other, the other robot?
If you could, right? Yeah. Oh, sorry, Arnold doesn't power it down. No, he builds the shit out of that car.
That's right.
Why he's trying to, like, again, why would anger, like, why would you want to build the shit out of the cars?
Is he getting out the TX programming by through force?
It's a fucking program. Fuck, RoboCop 2 did it pretty fucking well. He got overridden all those bullshit fucking directives. Fucking, I don't know, talking to kids about stealing's bad and roll 2 in the bush and I'm having trouble. And then he ends up losing his shit and then, you know, because they're like, oh, OCP pumped all this stuff into his brain. What does RoboCop do? Goes to a fucking high voltage fucking power board and electrocutes himself to rid himself of directives. In this case, Arnold just belts the shit out of a fucking car. And then program erased. I don't know, anyway. Works for me. It works for me, it works for you, it works for everyone. Yay! So they make their way to Crystal Peak. It looks like Cheyenne Mountain, actually. It looks very similar to like Cheyenne Mountain, you know, from Stargate, you know, good on you. And they go in there and
another great movie we've got to look at.
Stargate, fucking no.
I saw it at JB Hi-Fi the other day on Blu-ray, so yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely 100%. And you can't go wrong with Kurt Russell and James Spader, both legends. The TX thing flies in with the chopper. No, sorry, flies in with the chopper and the start. And this is where you almost have the final showdown between the TX, and then Arnold makes his way back in as well too.
And doesn't he say, "I'm back"?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah.
But he also says earlier, "She'll be back." So there's two like "I'll be back" references in this movie. Obviously not as strong as the original.
Just don't say it. Just don't say it. Don't oh man. Yeah. So you find out that Arnold's back, original programming restored, and this is where then Arnold, there's this emergency door that's closing down, and Arnold holds. Now this is where it gets a little bit weird for me because he's holding the door with one arm, right? And he's got his other arm, which is like sort of holding himself to the ground, and then he's telling John and Kate Brewster to go under the door and go into the facility, right? Then the TX is stuck under some rubble in her endoskeleton form.
Just to rip off her legs.
Rips off her legs, right? Now, can I ask you this question? He is holding it with one hand, but then I'm pretty sure when she's trying to climb under the door,
he grabs her with the other arm.
With the other arm. So he's still, but I'm pretty sure he uses two hands. Let me just hold on. I've got the movie on here. I'm just going to see this to make sure that I'm not going nuts because I did write this. So, yep, the TX grabs John Connor's leg. Then Arnold's got that arm, right?
Yep.
That is trying to grab the arm while holding the door open.
Yeah.
I might have totally misdone this because I wrote notes on this. So he's holding that arm, but then he grabs the TX again. Now hold on, here we go. Which hand does he use? He uses the other hand. How does that work? So that's the thing, right? So what happens is that.
Wait, hold on. He's holding the door. He's holding her, and then he gets the fuel cell. Oh, I didn't realize that. How does that work?
So how's he holding it? Yep, exactly it. So, okay, just for the viewers at home, if you haven't got the movie on.
I just noticed that.
Yeah, so what happens is the TX is now in an endo form, right? Arnold, the TX-50 is holding this big brass door so John and Kate can go underneath to escape, right?
They think it's a Skynet.
Yes, they think it's a Skynet computer core. So then what happens is that then the TX lost her legs in the crash, is then like leopard crawling pretty much down under the door, and then Arnold grabs the tail, well I guess the tail, the remnant of her torso, which wires and stuff, yeah, grabs that to hold the TX from continuing on. Then while the other arm, the TA-50 is holding the blast door open, then loses the grip, regains the grip with the other hand, that is, right? So he's still holding one door up, which I don't know how he swapped hands without that door going down even further, grabs the tail again of the TX, and then while holding the TX with one hand, manages to pull the TX back, and somehow, with the other hand of the TA-50, which is supposed to be holding the blast door, opens up the fuel cell section to pull out a fuel cell. Why the flying fuck is the TA-100 holding, or TA-50 holding that door open?
I don't know. But he also shoves it in her mouth, so maybe we'll
No, the door doesn't go down any further.
yeah, I know.
See, he's holding the door. He's like, hold the door. Now, I didn't like how,
Is he holding the door with a hand, or is it propped up against his shoulder?
I don't know, man, it might be propped up against his shoulder, but you can still see his arm. See?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So then what happens is he pulls the TX back, because the T-50 pull out the fuel cell. He shoves it in the TX's mouth.
Yeah, because it's Terminator.
Because with the fuel cell, it only lasts maybe 10 seconds out in the air until it becomes unstable. The one thing I didn't like, and I fucking, was when he shoves it in the TX's mouth, the TX, her face is like, it's like rotating between the endoskeleton face and the mimetic polyalloy, the liquid metal, moving around. So you can see facial features, right? And you look at her eyes. She's scared. She's freaking out. She's pissed. Like, it's a Terminator, for fuck's sake. It's a robot. And you got Arnold with the classic line, "You are terminated."
Yeah.
And then you see the pupils on this TX, like as if she popped fucking 5 peas. And you just got pupils absolutely massive. And freaking out, going, no. Again, orgasms, pill popping, fucking, what the fuck? This ain't... It's a TX, it's a Terminator. It's supposed to have fuck all emotion. Again, the only exception to the rule I have will be the T-1000, but that was an advanced prototype. It was more of a shock thing, not of pupils dilating when it's about to die. Anyway, continuing on.
Rant over.
Ran over. The fuel cell explodes, blows up Arnold and the TX. And you have this cool explosion that happens in the mountain. Now, the other part is that it looks like a pretty big fucking explosion in this movie. If you're on the other side of that fucking door, where John and Kate are running to, you should have copped some remnants of a blast from that thing. But obviously, they come unscathed, and then they make their way into the, it looks like a command center.
Yeah.
And it looks like something that was set up. I like this part, though, actually, because it looks like it's not like a bunker that was set up from, like, the 60s.
Yeah.
Like from the JFK era.
Yes, and it's got the little presidential stand there. And
Yeah, it's got the presidential desk, and it's got the presidential seal, like as if to do, TV announcements and things like that.
Yeah.
And they find out that, John and Kate find out that there is no central core here. This is a emergency shelter. This is a bunker.
Her father and the Terminator got them there to keep them safe, actually. Yeah.
So they knew there was no stopping the bombs from going off.
Yeah.
From Skynet taking over and actually launching the missiles.
And John turns off. We didn't actually talk about this, but he was making demo charges at one point. And now he turns the demo charges off when he realizes.
Yes.
When he realizes, there's nothing to blow up, basically.
Yeah. And it's funny though too, because it's all 1960. So the idea with tech right now, I don't know, I'm not a super tech expert, but I've worked with tech a bit in my career. But the idea about sometimes having old tech that can be maintained is that it doesn't interact. It's its own isolated system.
Yeah.
Right. So you're running. So I like how they got through here. They got all the old, like I said, very 60s, 70s-esque with all their computer consoles.
Those computers that are as tall as a person.
Yeah, but then they also got modern day fucking computers in there too. Like the idea about having old hardware and software is that it can be isolated from the network to run independently.
Yeah.
And so they find out that it's John made the realization. He's like, oh, he saved us. The Terminator saved us.
Yeah. And
we could not stop Judgment Day, because Judgment Day. So we've got to mention, they do say that Judgment Day, or TX-50 said it, that was supposed to happen today at 6:17.
That's right. That was the time scale that they had X amount of hours to get
to where they had to get to stop Skynet. So then all of a sudden, you're hearing all this. You're hearing some chatter over the comms. It was like another military installation saying we're being overrun. We're in trouble. Is anyone out there? Help, help, help! And then John Connor's like, oh yeah, this is John Connor. It's like, oh, Connor, is there anyone there with you? Crystal Peak. And it's like, who's in charge down there? And he's like, I am. And then I like how he said it though. It was like very much more like a remorseful, reluctant, like, fuck, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
And so then they're stuck in the bunker. And then this is the only part of the soundtrack I did like, besides the credits, which actually played the Terminator theme finally. Was the soundtrack for this part, because as John Connor says, I'm the only one in charge here. That's when you start seeing the missiles launch. Exactly how it was depicted, like exactly how it was supposed to say. It was supposed to be the US launched the missiles at Russia. Russia then do a counter attack, and then you got that great shot of the Earth with all these nuclear explosions happening. And then it has to end with a cheesy. And then you see the bombs go. Beautiful scene, beautiful soundtrack. But then you see the fucking nuclear fallout, right? And then you still see Arnold's endoskeleton head.
Yeah,
It's very
the light goes off.
And the light's still on, and then it slowly dims. That shit should have fucking gone off after that explosion. But nah, after the nuclear fallout, you got nuclear fallout because there's ash and shit all over the place. It starts looking very reminiscent to, like, start of T2, the future war stuff. The T-800, the light's still on, and then it slowly dims. Then credits. Then the Terminator soundtrack finally kicks in about fucking time. I was so pissed when I watched this, going, where's the music? Where's the sound? Where's the Terminator theme? Where's that stuff? And you only get it literally as the lights come on in the cinema and you're about to fucking walk out. And that's T3.
Horrible movie.
Yeah, look, do you have any, like, sort of, I don't know, favorite moments, favorite parts of the film, production stuff, anything?
Coffin machine gun. Like you said, a couple of changes, like the new sort of when they come through the portal, how that looks. Not a lot. Not a lot.
Yeah.
Glad that one's over and done with. We can move forward to the more positive Salvation, but then back to the depths of hell with Genesis and Dark Fate.
Yeah. And again, it's a very. I would have thought, when you watch movies when you're young, then you sort of don't watch them for a while, or you do watch them continuously, and usually over time it ages like a wine, where it's like, oh wow, or especially if you haven't watched it for so long and you go back to.
Yeah, like 1 and 2, like when I watched 1 and 2 for our first episode.
So a few years ago, I watched Terminator 1 and 2 back to back, and I thought, I'll watch Terminator 3. I haven't seen it in years. And then I thought, it's been a long time since I've seen it. Maybe my perspective might have changed a little bit on it. And nah, it's still just, it's a missed opportunity for a film. I think they made a genuine mistake sticking with running it in the modern day, and not focusing on the future war component, because I think that's the only way you could really push the franchise, because again, the franchise was supposed to be done and dusted. This only got made because they wanted to make money from it. Because there was an IP, there was money. And knowing its troubled production history, no wonder James Cameron stepped away from it. Although today, you watch think about today's films, as we go through other Terminator movies, like, I remember there was whether it got taken out of context or it was bullshit, to be honest. When Genesis came out, there was something that James Cameron said, oh, this is a great film. Even he said about T3, oh, it's a worthy entry. Dark Fate. I love James Cameron. You know what I mean? He's the man. Like, he really is. He's not just a great filmmaker, but things that he's doing with technology. Yeah. Where he's doing
submarines.
The things he made with 3D 3D cameras and photography, like, amazing stuff. And his work on avatars is his baby, right? But when you start going to Dark Fate, where he produced it, there's a lot of production trouble there too. But to go, we've decided to kick to give the audience a feeling of being kicked in the face at the start with the death of John Connor. I can't forgive that, because what's the one thing that happened in Alien 3?
Michael Biehn.
Well, they had Newt and fucking Hicks. And Bishop half, but he developed all these characters to only then have the next movie through the producers and some of the writers and all the producers kill them off in the first 5 minutes. And he was salty on that. He still is salty. He listened to a couple of podcasts, a great podcast from Michael Biehn and James Cameron, and he talks how much he disdains that. And I don't blame him. But then for Terminator Dark Fate, he did exactly the same fucking thing. And so you're like, So this movie, missed opportunity. Not a fan. I wouldn't really recommend it, honestly. If you want to watch it if you haven't seen any Terminator movie, watch it as a standalone. Watch this one first. Honestly, because
get it out of the way.
Because even if you do like it, you go back and watch 1 and 2, it gets better. As opposed to leaving yourself into a false sense of security, watching 1, 2, and then this garbage.
But that's all we have time for on today's Vinden Entertainment podcast. Thanks for joining us. We thought we might get to Salvation today, but our hate of T3 overtook this episode. So we're definitely going to get to Salvation next episode. Have a good one, guys.
Take care, guys.
Listen over here.